Here are 5 problems you're going to hit dealing with your accountability chart exercise. Let's get right into it. First, identifying implied authority versus explicit authority. You're going to go through this accountability chart exercise. It's going to be initially probably what you think people think they're doing in their accountabilities. And once you put those in front of people, you're going to have this amazing experience where as a leader, you're going to be like, why? But it's because you're not bridging the gap between implied authority and explicit authority. So listing those accountabilities and getting things out there to make sure that people understand that they are accountable for margin, say, or churn, or some other metric, and making sure they own it is a big thing. Things that you might have to do, a little hack that you might have to create, a separate project, delegation of authority. This happens if you have a customer service function and you might need to set different thresholds where you enable people to give credits at certain levels. Maybe that was informal before. Once you go through your accountability chart and you start getting these accountabilities in front of people, you really have to nail down explicitly the authority you're giving people. So that's number one. Number two, making sure people are in the right meetings without regard to level. So in a traditional org chart, it's kind of real level centric, right? Once you get kind of blocked up in the accountability chart in the first pass, usually one of the sanity checks you can do is like, okay, looking at that L10, are the right people in that meeting without regard to level to help us make decisions? What decisions can we make in that meeting? I think this is one that is a really challenging but kind of a freeing exercise, especially as you expand to 20, 30, 40 people. Once you get over 100, we got like all kinds of problems, but you can make sure you're getting the right people in the right meetings without regard to level. Org charts, kind of VPs are in one, like C levels are in one, and this just breaks that down completely. So love accountability chart. Don't have a whole lot of hacks here for you, but you will find it will change or sanity check once your initial draft is, okay, that person is not in the right meeting. In your annual reviews of your accountability chart too, you can think back on especially your leadership L10, who should have been here to help us make the right meeting and or make this a more effective meeting. And you'll see yourself adding people and adjusting the accountability chart. Number three, do you have a reasonable number of direct reports for each person? This is an interesting one with the accountability chart. For us, we said, that might be 8 people. That's kind of what we said. Nobody could have more than 8 direct reports. So that informed kind of our decision on how we build our accountability chart. One of the things on the hacks you're going to have to think about is you might have to disconnect that if you think you can have effective meetings with more than 9 people, so the one person and their 8 direct reports. So if you think there's a meeting size, say between 10 and 11 people, where it makes some sense. The way our accountability chart looks is, in that case, is the first top level L10 might be the 9-person block, and then one of those people might have 1 or 2 direct reports or 3 or 4 direct reports in the L10. And instead of having 2 L10 meetings, you have a combined L10 with the 11 people, if that makes sense. So that's how we did it. So our integrator didn't have, 10 direct reports, but we needed 10 people in our leadership L10. So one of the person took 3 of the direct reports, that left the integrator. So the accountability chart looks like normal still, except for if you think of the triangles as separate meetings, you can combine that meeting if you can still have an effective number of meetings. But you will be thinking about the effective number of direct reports when you build that. Just disconnect that from meetings, because you can always collapse 2 triangles or 2 L10s and make it one like mega L10 and still manage the HR side of it. Fourth, this is more common you hear about, but it really helped us identify capacity issues. So this is typically referred to in the traction books as like one person in multiple boxes. Okay, so that's pretty well documented that you're going to find that issue. But here's our hack. Here's one thing that we did to start us on the path of fixing that, because you're just not going to be able to hire somebody for everything. But what we started doing when we looked at the accountability chart boxes, and people that had were in multiple boxes, we realized boxes don't have to be full-time jobs. So we actually, when boxes weren't full-time jobs, started prescribing percentages to them. Example, look, I'm doing videos, right? But this is not my main job, right? And this is not necessarily the job of somebody in my box. I just happen to spend 10% of my time in the marketing tree on doing videos and shorts, right? So that box has 10%, and my core box will be the remainder, 90%. So one of the reasons we do that is to reset expectations on how much time people should be spending on each of their boxes so they can prioritize their week, month, year on how to do things. The second thing, it allows us to keep tracking those roles. So as the company grows, we know those roles might expand and might need people in those boxes. So two things that we're doing there. Ideally, you have one person to one box, but like that's just not the reality in most of our companies and based on how we're growing. But it does allow you with the percentage hack to put people in different boxes, set expectations of what's reasonable, and still track for what you need in the future. The last one's accountability that's owned by one person and one person only. So we saw this in two ways. We had boxes on our accountability chart exercise with no name. And then we had boxes with two names and accountabilities that were in multiple places. We made that mistake, putting accountabilities in multiple places. So if two people own one accountability, unless that accountability can be broken down really definitively, if two people own one accountability, it's not going to be tracked. It's not going to be successful. If nobody's tracking an accountability, that's not going to be successful. The accountability chart exercise really brings these 5 things to light that we've talked about. I hope this was helpful. Hope you got a little bit of hack out of here. I'm the Tech CPA, and this was our accountability chart review.